What's cracking? So I'm back to work on the Suburban today. Got the front shock pockets and mounts installed. So now I'm working on the rear. Got everything leveled out. Got the axle back where it needs to go. Got my pinion angle where I want it. So now I need to make these mounts here and here. And the distance between here, the tire and the frame here is way shorter than the front. And it comes up a lot higher, like arches up. As you can see here. See all the room we got between there and there. That's a crazy amount of room. And then back over here, we've only got a couple inches on each side. Then it arches up. So what I did was, it's sitting on the jack stands. It's sitting level about where I want it. I measured from the bottom of that mount to the top of the tube so that I could get a distance on how high that has to be to the tube to get the same amount of lift. And I went back here and measured the bottom of this frame where that mount will sit to that tube, and the difference is 4 inches higher. So what I've done is designed my shock mounts there 4 inches taller back here to make up for it. And then I actually had them wrap around, since they have to go on the frame itself or on the axle itself here. I designed them so that they have that groove in them, so they'll sit on top of there. So I'm getting ready to cut them out on a plasma table, and then we'll get them installed, see how they look. Came out really good. See how I have the arch in them there for the axle? So now I'll just take all these to the bench, clean them up a little bit, tack them together, see how they look. Alright, so here's that mount tacked up. Gonna stick it in there and see what it looks like. So I got the mount in there. Got it sitting level. How well you guys can see it, but so it looks like from here to here is gonna work. Gives me clearance between the tire, and really the only thing that's going up through there is the cylinder, so I can move that over probably a little bit more. So the cylinder goes up, and I think the spring's gonna be above the tire once it's actually in there and installed. So I don't think the spring's gonna come into contact with the tire at all, but I think this is good. And that mount's gonna work. You can see how it wraps around the frame there, if you can see it. So I'll weld that around the, not the frame, the axle. So I'll weld that around the axle. Alright, so that looks like that's gonna be good. I'll take that back over and weld that all the way out. Make another one for the other side and see how it looks. Alright, so I've tacked up the top and bottom shock mount. I stuck a plumb bob through that hole there and lined it up with the center of that bracket. So I haven't welded this all the way out yet. I can do it on here. I just want to make sure it's going to work before I go any further. So now I'm going to lift the truck up to the ride height that I want and see how it works. I'm going to put the shock or the strut and the spring in there and see how it sits. Make sure it doesn't rub the tire. See what it looks like. Okay, so I got it up. Of course, one of my tacks broke again. I didn't want to put too much weight on it, but I got just enough. This tack broke, so it kind of moved out this way, which isn't a big deal because it's still sitting level this way. And it rolled just a tiny bit. I tried to keep it from rolling. Rolled just a tiny bit. So what I did was, I don't have the springs and shocks in here, of course. So I measured the distance from here to here should be 23 inches, actually 19 inches. So that tells me this has 4 more inches to go to the ride height that I set with this stuff in here. And here's the level, and I picked it up like this until it was level, which is right there, and I measured that, and that's 4 inches on a dot. So that tells me that it's in the right location. When it's sitting down, it's gonna ride completely level, which is exactly what I wanted. So I think that mounting kit for the rear that I made is gonna work good. Like I said, you can see it twisted. The mount came out because of the tack, but I'll push that back up against the wall, and you can see that spring just sits right inside that pocket. So it's gonna work out great. And then these just weld right to here. I'll weld all this all the way out now that I know it's gonna work. That should work out great. Now I do know, like, I'm looking right in line because the next thing I have to do is my trailing arms, and the trailing arms will fall right about here, which is great because that gives me all this open space here. I can cut this tab off and just make mounts on the bottom and the top there. One mount with the two mounting spots, and then run my trailing arms down there. So I got plenty of room for that, plenty of room for the shock. That works out great. I got all that welded out. Put some really heavy hot passes in there, and some of it, you know, like this has that little divot. I had to fill that, but I wanted to get some real good heavy penetration on there. It's not the prettiest, but it'll hold. Now I gotta finish welding all this out, but I'm gonna wait till I take the axle out because I don't want to be welding right here over the tire. Over here is kind of fine. It's not going too close to the tire, but right here might risk it. So when I finalize it, I'll weld this out. Now when I make the one for the other side, I know it's going to work. I'll weld it over on the bench, the mount and that, and have them both done and ready. Off camera, I finished the other mounts for the other side, got them welded in, got it all kind of lifted up and level here. So you see this side here. What I did was I went over here, just remade the same mounts, put them in exactly the same place, welded them in. That one still needs to be welded the rest of the way out, but it's got a good stringer weld on it. So now what I think I need to do is lift it up, and there's two supports in here that I won't need. So this support right here is for those spring tensioners that aren't in there anymore, whatever you call those. And then this one right here, I'm not sure if it supports the gas tank, but I probably won't have to take that one out. What I want to do is check my angle one last time for the drive shaft. And you can see the shaft comes out there, so it comes right, usually up over those bars and down, but we're not going to have that luxury. So I think I'm definitely going to have to take this bar out and maybe cut this bar out also and move it up, or replace it, put it somewhere and move it back. So I'm going to get it up in the air and see what I got to do for that. Here, and just in case you're wondering, I do put supports under there just in case this starts to come down. Definitely wouldn't be under here without some sort of safety feature in there. So now, like I said, this one I can see is welded in there. I don't think it supports the tank or anything. It doesn't look like it. So what I might do is just cut this right here and right here, just so the drive shaft can come down. Drop this one. This should just be these two bolts right here. I should be able to drop these out, hopefully. I don't know, they look like they're in there pretty tight, but hopefully I can get an impact back there and spin them off. If not, I'll just cut it. So there's a drive shaft right there. It is kind of at an angle too. It's gonna come right through here, right down through there. So this is actually gonna be in a way when I try to check that angle. I may have to block these up a little bit to get it to ride height and then check it, just to make sure. Like I said, I think I'm gonna make my mounts adjustable a little bit so that I can adjust the, you know, the stance on there, or the roll I should say. But I may not, because the factory doesn't. If you look at the factory ones, they're just solid right here to here. So I may make mine like that. Same thing up on top here. See, they're just solid from there to there. So I may just make mine solid too. But if I'm going to do that, I have to make sure everything's definitely at the right angles, like the pinion angle's perfect, because I won't be able to adjust it. Alrighty. Some pretty good steel for later. for nuts or bolts. I have a lathe, so I can definitely machine that down and reuse the stuff. So here it is with that one out. Open that all up. So I gotta cut this one. Like I said, I'm gonna cut it here and here. Then I don't know, after the drive shaft's in, maybe I'll move it back here, support it from here to here if I need it. But I've got this transmission mount, engine mount that's kind of supporting the frame in and out. But I definitely don't want it just wide open, moving around. So yeah, I do have to cut it though. I have to cut it to be able to come through here with the drive shaft, kind of get my angle going. I'm just going to stick my stock one in there and kind of get the measurement, or just a string from the top of here to the bottom of there. So let's get the cutting. You know what? I'm gonna get my plasma cutter. Way easier. No wonder that's so bright. Had the shaded glasses on my head and the clear ones on my face. So now my eyes are gonna burn for a couple days. So that's good right there. Now I got a straight shot. And when I took this brace out, there was no popping or there was nothing bound up. So I don't think there was too much tension on that. So that's a good sign. So now I'm going to put my stock transmission in. I know it's probably going to hit this, but I do want to put it in there and see where it lays when I get it down on the ground. So let's do that. So that goes up in there pretty good. And this is a stock one, thing's huge, big aluminum drive shaft. The custom one that I'm getting built should have the 2 knuckles and be a lot skinnier than this. But like I said, I just want to check my angles real quick. So I'm going to drop it down, see what it's looking like. I've got it at ride height, about where it's going to sit. And it actually looks like the stock drive shaft might work in it. To be honest, at that angle, it looks about perfect. So if this fork wasn't here and it wasn't laying on a fork, it looks like it would almost go right back in there. even though this is a Ford axle and a Chevy drive shaft, it looks like they'll go back together. I'm still going to get a custom one made, but it looks like this would have worked, because this is one that I took out and it's kind of damaged. See the dings, and that one vibrates anyway. But this is pretty crazy. It looks like that'll work. So it looks like that pinion angle's great. Surprising. And it's surprising that the two different brand axle and drive shafts knuckles actually mount up. Like I said, I'm not a professional, so I don't know if that's a common thing, but it looks pretty good. I have it up at ride height, about lifted up. What I want to do is get the scans of the frame and the axle. So what I'm going to have to do is put some of that green cardboard back behind there, or foam back behind there. And what I'll have to do is, I think I'm going to put different size bolts and nuts on there, spray it all gray so that the scanner picks it up, and then hopefully just wedge it in there so that I can hopefully get a scan from down there all the way up into here. So these forks are going to get in the way a little bit, but I think if I can get a board in there from there to there, that should be good to where I can scan around this and come up through here and just delete that when I'm in Fusion 360 designing. So here's the stock mount, and what I'm wondering is if I shouldn't just drop this, cut this off and come to this mounting point and actually come down. I think I wanted it a little bit longer though for leverage, so I may come back to here, which is about right here on the truck. Doing the same thing here, I might come like back to right here. I don't think I want to come all the way back into the middle. I don't think it's necessary, as long as I drop the mount down far enough. So let me see if I can get all that set up. All right, so I got a couple different powders here, because like I said, I have to spray a powder on the darker material or the scanner doesn't pick it up very well. So I got this foot spray that's cheap, it's like $5, and then I got this dry shampoo that's cheap. So I'm gonna spray this on the frame, the axle, see how it comes out. I spray painted that board with a bunch of different screws, gray, and then I'll stick that in there and we'll see how that works. Okay, well, I'm glad I grabbed this, because this doesn't work at all. This is actually not coming out white at all. Okay, that sucks. So now let's try the dry shampoo, so let me wipe that off. That was clear for some reason. Usually not clear. So I know this works. You see that, how white that is? Maybe not. See how white that is? Gray. That's what you want for 3D scanning. So this stopped coming out white. So what I'm gonna have to do is actually spray paint it, because I'm going back through and painting all this anyway. Then here's the board I made. See here, it has a bunch of different screws in it, different sizes, different lengths. So hopefully when I get this in there, the 3D scanner will pick all that up. Here's the setup. Got the scanner out again. Got that board placed in there between the frame and the axle. So now hopefully I can take it, scan through here, and get the axle and the frame in there. See what happens. I messed with it more and more and more. I put some more angles in here, so there was some crooked geometry for it to follow and some more pieces. And I did manage to get it scanned all the way to the back. So you can see there's the frame mount right there. And then when you turn it this way, there's the axle back in there. So I did manage to get it. Just took a little bit of doing there. Got the gas tank, got everything in there. So now I'll take it home, post-process it, cut some of this stuff out here, and then yeah, go from there, start designing the kit. All right, so I got the design all made up. Here's the drop bracket, there's the frame. I made adjustable holes right there, if you can see, so that you can move this up and down. So if I want to use this on a different vehicle or the front. And then here's the arm right here, and then you can see there's the axle, where the axle sits. So I am coming a little bit close here to this is actually the shock tower, but I've got enough clearance in there. I measured it, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, instead of putting a nut on there, I'm going to double this side up, make it a 1/2 inch instead of a 1/4 inch, and then I'll thread that so it'll have its own internal thread, and then I'll put a lock washer on this side, and that should account for not being able to slide a nut in there. And then the shock tower actually comes way up here above all that stuff, so that shouldn't interfere with anything. So now what I'm going to do is, first off, just cut that little tab, cut 2 of those out, put them together, drill the hole to size, kind of put it in there, mock it up, and see how it looks on the axle. All right, there's one. Now I'll cut another one, and then what I'm going to do is put these on top of each other, weld them together so it's actually a 1/2 inch, and then I'll thread them. There's a second piece. So like I said, what I'll do is just sandwich the 2 together. I made the hole smaller intentionally so that I can tap those. I'll drill them and then tap them for a 1/2 inch, which is what that bolt size is. Got that bracket drilled and tapped to the right size. It's a 1/2 inch 13, which is what the pin on those bushings on the control arm are going to be. So now I just have to see, I got to move this Oh yeah, that's gonna work perfect. So it goes from the edge of this over 2.5 inches to this side right here, face. And once I move that bracket, this brake line, that should work perfect. Awesome. All right, so I measured from the edge of this to the face of this is 1.5 inches. And if I put this up on here like this, I get right at 1.5 inches. It's hard to hold it up there and show you, but from there to there, if I push it up against there, I get 1.5 inches, which is good. That'll work. So I can grind the weld down there a little bit, set it up a little bit flush, and it also gives me a place to weld here, so I can weld this all the way out. But that'll work. So that's threaded, that's the nut. 1/2 inch is plenty for that nut to grab. I can probably move it, I might just leave it out just a little bit, maybe grind that weld down and leave it out just a tad bit like that, so that there is a little bit of space for it to go back in there. And that should line up good with that. Should come right down in there. Actually, if looking at it here while it's up, I know this isn't ride height, but I should have a little bit of play over here, so I might be able to space it out. I'm not gonna mount anything until I get everything done. So once I get the mount done and measure back where it's at and I mount it, I'm gonna tack it in. I'm gonna make the arms, get it where it needs to go, and then move everything in and mount everything up. I'm gonna mount these to the arm on both sides, then I'll lay them on here, and then I'll tack them where they need to go, the top and the bottom, so that everything will kind of fit where it needs to fit. So now that I know that's good, what I'm gonna do is cut one of the sides of the arm and one of the sides of the bracket so that I can see how they're gonna lay and fit. All right, so I have all the pieces cut out. They're gigantic. So you see here, here's the cut file. The cut file is huge. So if you saw, I was standing next to it and watching for tip-ups. So if the torch comes over something like this that's tipped up, it wouldn't hit it. I was pulling them out of there. There wasn't very many. But just the sheer size of these parts is crazy. It's unexplainable. When I'm designing in CAD, it's kind of like I just don't have it in perspective of actually how big these parts are. Like if you can see, like look at this part, it's huge. Let's see if I can get it to come out of there. Pops right out of there. But you can see from me holding it, look how big that is. It's gigantic. And so now I have to cut another one of those, which I may not have room for. I might actually have to get another sheet of 1/2 inch. I might be able to get one stretched out this way, maybe if I go back to there and the head comes up to here, but I know I'm gonna have to get another sheet anyway because I have to do the front. But these parts came out awesome. If you can see, the holes are perfect. All these holes are perfect. It really looks cool too. That's another reason that I designed my plasma table with the it's got a floating head, but it also has a torch height controller, so it registers the electricity somehow from the metal when it's firing to the tip, to how far it is from the metal. And I could hear the metal, you could see it, see how raised it is, and it popped up in the middle. That's why in my cut file you can see I was jumping around. I'd cut there, I'd cut here, I'd cut there, trying to keep the metal as cool as I could. But it, no matter what, when you do that final cut, it still warps and pops and bends, and the torch height controller will follow those bends. So, but I think they came out awesome. Get them out of here, get them welded up. They're gigantic. Like, these are the brackets for you know, mounting those arms, and they're just huge. Look at my hand compared to those. So let me get all these out of here, cleaned up, then we'll start mocking it up, see what we get. All right, I got the brackets cut and mocked up in here. This is approximately ride height. You can see they're gigantic, but they go up in there, they'll weld up in there onto the frame on both sides. And then I made those other supports that kind of go behind it here, and I don't think I actually need those, to be honest. I was gonna do that so I could have like more support inside of here to weld, but after seeing these, I don't think I need those. But I might need to have them down here just for spacing, maybe right here. Weld them just in this little strip right here, cut that out, weld that in just for the spacing of this arm. But the arm's kind of just propped up in there. I just got it set on the axle there, approximately where it's gonna go. But it looks awesome. Seeing it in person is a lot different than seeing it in 3D modeling. And this bracket's actually gonna go forward more too, a little bit to about right here. But I like it. I think it looks really good. And the geometry is good. I think it's at like 15 degrees up, 15 or 17 degrees up. And then if it's not good enough, I made these holes adjustable so I could go up or down with it. And that will also adjust the axle back and forward for the height of the drive shaft. And then back around here, you can see here's that bracket that I made. So pretty much this will be a box, you know, it'll be another one over here, be a box, and then it'll screw in right here. So it'll go through there, through that bushing, through the center, screw into there, and be set. So I think looking at it now, I got plenty of room to come over and still be level with that, to move that bracket away from that bracket. So now I just gotta weld it up and see what it looks like. Off camera, has cut all these parts out for the trailing arms and supports. These lowers right here, I grinded out these holes a little bit just to smooth them out, make these grommets slide into the hole real nice. They go in there perfect. There's no play at all. What I'm doing now is taking my trusty prison shank that I made, and I'm knocking all the slag off of the parts. Then once I get the slag all knocked off, what I'm going to do is assemble these. I'm going to put the two grommets in here, space them out to the correct spacing, which is 2.5 inches apart, and then I'm going to go and tack all these parts in right here to hold it in place. And then I'm going to check it over on the truck and make sure everything's legit. And what I want to do is, once I get all this done, I'm going to mount everything up, even the mounts here. I'm going to mount all this stuff together on the truck, put it in there, let it sit where it's going to sit, measure everything, make sure it's correct, and then start tacking stuff in. And to me, I think that's the best way to do this, to make sure that everything sits where it needs to sit. So right now I'm going to get back to slag removal, and then we'll get tacking these up. right, so what I'm gonna do now is put these bushings in here. I went and got some bolts that fit it. These are energy suspension bushings that I ordered online. They're about $25 for 2 pair of them. And they have the 1/2 inch ID sleeve. So I'm gonna press these in here and get this thing put together. All right, so I got them all in here, and what I need to do is space this out to be 2.5 inches all the way around, and then I'll start welding those plates in. I'll just get them tacked in, and that'll make it become one piece. Pretty big trailing arms. I think they look cool though. I got the trailing arm all tacked up. It's a beast. It's probably overkill, but I'd rather over-engineer it than under-engineer it any day of the week. All the bushings fit in there great. Everything's nice and square. I left myself room to get some real good penetration in there when I weld it together. It just looks awesome. So do these mounts. What I was gonna do was mock it all up and put it on the truck to end this week out, because this is the last day I have to work on it till next week. But the holes are slightly too small for the bolts that need to go through there, and I actually went and drilled them out, and this is the biggest drill that I have, so I have to go get a drill a little bit bigger just to fit that in there and drill these out, because I want those holes perfect. But you can see here, everything fits nice in here. It's coming out cool. So that's about all the time I have for this week. Also, I had to order 2 more 4x8 sheets because just this stuff right here, also with the pockets that I made and all the supports that I made, I did use some material that I had laying around, but just this stuff right here took about a half of a 4x8 sheet. So I have 3 more corners to go. So I just ordered 2 more plates, because I never know what else I'm gonna have in there. I might do some decorative stuff in there also and weld it in there to make it look cool. So that's about all the time that I have this week. Because of that, I don't have the plate. Plus I want to get this video out this week. But I appreciate everyone watching. Give me a thumbs up and a like. So subscribe to my channel. Give me a like if you like this kind of content. Leave a comment below if there's something you see I'm doing wrong or something you would do different. Just let me know.